In the beginning, when time was fresh and the stars sparkled for the first time in the infinite silence, everything began. The story of humanity was not just an existence, but a quest, a journey of loyalty and an unending hope. From the moment the first breath touched the earth, the world transformed into a grand stage. Adam, the first man, the first father, and the first prophet, descended to earth, carrying the scent of paradise in his skin, his heart filled with sorrow, yet absolute submission. As the soil he stepped upon was watered by his tears, this massive adventure of humanity commenced. The first prayer echoing through vast valleys and untouched riverbanks was, in fact, the first voice of that deep longing within all of us. Every morning as the sun rose, it reminded the world of the great promise given to Adam. You are not alone. The majesty of the mountains, the whisper of the wind, and the depth of the sea were all there to murmur a single great truth. Yet, as time flowed like grains of sand scattered by the wind, mankind forgot that great promise. Hearts hardened and minds were shrouded in darkness. It was then that the gates of heaven opened once more with mercy. In the darkest moments, a ship appeared on the horizon. But this ship was not built on the seas. It was constructed within the patience of a man. Noah, in his centuries-long loneliness, worked the timber until his hands were calloused, building not just a vessel, but a path to salvation. Despite the mocking smiles, the deaf, and the blind around him, he only looked toward the heavens. And when that great day arrived, the sky began to weep and the earth began to vomit water. As the water rose like a giant monster swallowing everything, those few faithful hearts upon that wooden ark were, in truth, the new seeds of humanity. When the storm subsided and the sun shone atop Mount Judy, the scent of fresh earth heralded not just an end, but a pristine beginning. This was the victory of patience, the story of how the seemingly impossible turns into reality with a single prayer. Centuries later, another heart was tested in the midst of fire. In that dark age where cruelty and pride peaked among the massive walls of Babylon, a youth named Abraham rose like an army of one. Against the silence of idols, he set out to make the voice of the Creator heard. And when they threw him into a massive fire, the fire forgot its nature. Abraham's submission was so profound that the scorching flames instantly transformed into a cool rose garden. At that moment, it was understood that if a heart is truly connected, no fire on earth can burn that soul. Abraham was etched into the heart of history not just as a prophet, but as a monument of submission. His trial with his son taught all ages the meaning of sacrifice. That serenity under the sharp blade was telling us, if you can sacrifice even what you love most for Him, you have achieved true freedom. Yet, tests sometimes came with fire, and sometimes with the betrayal of those closest to you. In the land of Canaan, Joseph, the apple of his father Jacob's eye, had no inkling of the dark well ahead when he dreamed of the sun and moon prostrating to him. Left in that bottomless pit by his brothers out of blind jealousy, Joseph was but a child. But in the depths of that well, in the darkest corridors of loneliness, the light of hope never faded. He was sold in a slave market, slandered, and spent years within the cold walls of dungeons. But Joseph's story taught us this: if God wishes to raise a servant, He first lowers them to the deepest depths. That journey from the darkness of the dungeon to the treasures of Egypt was a saga of how patience turns into victory and chastity into a crown. When Joseph forgave his brothers, He was shouting to the world that mercy is a power greater than justice. As the wheel of time turned, another story was written that pushed the limits of human endurance. Job had everything: children, wealth, health. But one day, everything slipped through his fingers. While his body wasted away with disease and his friends abandoned him, he prostrated, saying, "Indeed, distress has touched me, and you are the most merciful of the merciful." Job's patience was not just waiting, it was finding God within the pain. When his wounds healed and everything was returned to him many times over, the world relearned the definition of patience. Pain was temporary, but that dignified stance was eternal. When a basket began to float in the cool waters of the Nile, a new era was at the door. Within it lay the innocence of a baby, Moses. This child, raised within the magnificence of palaces, but whose soul always burned with the suffering of his oppressed people, would one day strike his staff and move the earth. While the pride of Pharaoh drowned among the waves of a sea, that sea parted by Moses' staff was the greatest proof that no obstacle can stand before faith. However, Moses' journey was not limited to his staff. When he set out to seek the secrets of knowledge and destiny, he encountered Khidr. On that mysterious journey that began where the two seas meet, Moses learned the wisdom behind the apparent in the piercing of a ship, the loss of a child's life, and the repair of a crumbling wall. We felt to our core the good lying beneath what we perceived as evil, and the divine plan behind our impatience through Moses' astonishment and Khidr's silence. This journey taught us that life does not consist only of what we see, and that a hidden hand weaves miracles behind every event. And one day came a sultan who ruled the winds and commanded the jinn and animals, Solomon. His kingdom was the most magnificent, most majestic sovereignty the earth had ever seen. Crystal palaces, gold-leafed thrones, and news brought by birds. But Solomon's greatness lay not in the gold he possessed, but in a heart fine enough to hear the voice of an ant. He was so powerful that he ruled the world, yet so humble that he never forgot he was merely a servant. Even his passing was a lesson. Surrendering his soul while leaning on a staff was a silent sermon on how near death is and how fleeting worldly reign remains. The dark night spent in the belly of the whale turned into an enlightenment in Jonah's heart. In the deepest, quietest part of the ocean, that whisper which no human could hear reached the throne. There is no deity except you. Exalted are you. Indeed, I have been of the wrongdoers. This prayer did not just bring Jonah out of that darkness. From that day on, it became the compass of every soul in distress. We saw how regret turns into a miracle when combined with sincerity. This light continued with the glad tidings Zechariah received in his old age, with the martyrdom of John, and with Jesus resurrecting the dead like a breath. Mary's chastity, that silent and noble stance, became the greatest sign of a woman's spiritual power. Every story was, in fact, a balm for a wound in the human soul, a torch for a darkness. Humanity matured a little more in every link of this great prophetic chain. And finally, the most honorable moment of time and space arrived. Amidst the burning sands of Mecca, that light born from the heart of an orphaned child began to illuminate the entire world. When Muhammad Mustafa came as the final link and seal of that great chain, he brought not just a religion, but a revolution of mercy. When he said, I was sent only to perfect noble character, he was summarizing the common essence of all these ancient stories. His life was not a legend of how an orphan became a world leader, but of how a human could be the most beautiful example. That heart which did not curse even while being stoned in Taif, those eyes that wept for his nation when his tooth was broken at Uhud, were the very peace humanity sought. With his arrival, slaves became free, women gained value, and children smiled. His parting was not a sorrow, but a reunion filled with the legacy of that
Now looking back, this
light,
massive narrative tells us
Quran
this.
and
No
the
matter how
Sunnah.
dark your story is, your time to board a Noah's Ark will come. Even if you burn in fires, you can find a coolness like Abraham. Even if you're forgotten in wells or stay in dungeons, you can be deemed worthy of a throne like Joseph. At the end of patience, you can find healing like Job and see the seas parting before you like Moses. The important thing is not to leave the path of that eternal light and not to close your heart to those ancient voices. For we are not just inhabitants of this world, but the current carriers of that great prophetic legacy. The sky is still the same sky. The stars are still whispering the same truth. And until that great day comes, this story will not end. It will continue to be reborn in each of our hearts. When we begin to speak with that ancient language of mercy, justice, and love, only then will we overcome our own small apocalypses and reach the shore of peace. Remember, you too are a part of this great story, and your journey can begin anew with a single intention and a single prayer. The light never went out. It is only waiting for you to notice it. May your heart always find the light that these great prophets followed. May your burdens be lifted like the Ark of Noah, and may your soul find coolness in every fire of life, just like Abraham. May Allah grant you the patience of Job, the wisdom of Moses, and the noble character of our beloved Prophet Muhammad. Peace be upon him. We hope this journey through the stories of the prophets has touched your soul and brought peace to your heart. If you found comfort in these words and want to join our growing community of faith and reflection, please subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell. Your support helps us bring these timeless stories to more hearts across the world. Don't forget to share your prayers and thoughts in the comments below. Until we meet again in the light of another story, stay with peace, stay with faith,